Hi, folks. All right, I'm going to let folks trickle on in here. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Carollo with the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We hope you're staying safe and healthy. As many of you know, we launched our Meet the Candidates program last year, and we're thrilled to kick it off now with one of the most important races in the country, the 2022 Wisconsin Senate race. Our endorsed candidate, the front runner, and a rising star in the party, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, is here with us tonight. We are thrilled. So a few quick programmatic notes before we dive in. For those of you who haven't, please turn on your cameras if you feel comfortable. We'd love to make it feel like we're in a room together. When you have a question for Mandela, you'll just go to the chat. You'll find me. It says Rachel, PCC host. Chat me your question. We're going to try and get in as many as we can, so please forgive me in advance if I can't get to yours. We try to keep these short and sweet and be respectful of everyone's time. So I'll ask some of them, others will ask them themselves, and we'll just kind of sprinkle it in and do the best we can do. But please feel free to send me your questions at any point and bear with me. One final note, while these events don't cost anything, we do hope that if you're excited by what you hear from Mandela tonight, that you'll consider making a contribution to help fuel his campaign before Mandela's first FEC filing deadline, which is September 30th. So we'll make that very easy. We'll chat you the link a few times throughout the event, and if you'd consider chipping in, we would appreciate that tremendously. So with that, let me turn it over to our co-founder, Adam Green. Adam.
Great, thanks, Rachel. And thanks to everyone for joining today's meet and greet with Mandela Barnes, Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin and U.S. Senate candidate. And we are proud to be hosting this event with our friends at Way to Lead. I will say that Mandela is one of the most promising candidates that the Progressive Change Campaign Committee has ever supported in our 12-year history, perhaps since we ran the draft Elizabeth Warren for Senate campaign in 2011. And here's why. First, we have a golden opportunity to flip a red seat blue. And if we win this seat, we can keep a Democratic Senate, and every new seat we get reduces Joe Manchin's veto power over the entire Democratic agenda. Secondly, we're very fortunate to have a clear progressive movement favorite in the primary, someone who has been in the trenches with us for years, building power and building infrastructure. I will say that our good friend, State Senator Chris Larson, dropped out of the race and endorsed Mandela, allowing progressive consolidation around his candidacy. Third, that progressive favorite is by far the front runner in the Democratic primary. Although I will say that he's up against self-funding millionaires, so we need to invest time and energy early to maintain that lead. And fourth, we have the most electable candidate. A new poll out this week shows Mandela neck and neck with right-wing extremist Ron Johnson. Now, we've been proud to endorse several other great candidates for Senate this year, such as Morgan Harper in Ohio, Lucas Coons in Michigan, Cory Booker in Kentucky, and these all represent expand the map races. And for those looking to be a political angel investor of sort, getting in early with candidates that could take off and beat the odds, those are really important races. And the PCCC will be doing meet and greet events with them in the near future. But Mandela's race is different. Even the most risk-averse person, or someone who went beyond capacity in 2020 and is now being very sparing about where they put time and money, all of us can feel very good about going in big and going in early with Mandela in this race. And that's why Senator Elizabeth Warren just became the first US Senator to endorse Mandela, and this is the first Senate race she has endorsed this cycle. You know, we met, Stephanie and I and the PCCC team met Mandela several years ago when he was a former legislator working for the State Innovation Exchange, which organizes state legislators as our side's alternative to ALEC. And when he ran for lieutenant governor in 2018, he attended our PCCC candidate training with other luminaries such as Deb Haaland and Andy Kim and Mike Levin, who all won big races that year for Congress. Mandela is also a longtime champion for economic justice, racial justice, climate justice, including on issues like Medicare for all, the policies behind the Green New Deal, a wealth tax, police reform, and many others. And I will just say, on a modern day note, that a phone call that we had with Mandela this past February really helped us focus the PCCC's organizational attention for these past 6 months on federal voting rights legislation and passing the Build Back Better agenda so that candidates like Mandela running in 2022 have an electorate that is able to vote and motivated to vote. So we are very thankful to Mandela for his thought partnership, and we're thrilled that he is our first Meet the Candidate event this cycle. So I'll now turn it over to Mandela to give everyone an update on his race, and then my co-founder Stephanie will ask the first question to him, and then we'll take questions from all of you. So Mandela, thanks so much for joining us tonight. You might be on mute.
I'm on mute. It's been a year and a half of this and still don't unmute myself. But thanks so much, Adam, for having me. Thank you to PCCC for all the work that you do to highlight progressive candidates that don't always get the light of day, don't always get the attention that they deserve. Thank you for bringing ideas and bold vision to the forefront. I'm really excited to be a PCCC endorsed candidate, really excited to be in this race. Again, I'm Mandela Barnes, proudly serving as Lieutenant Governor of the state of Wisconsin, and I'll briefly just talk about my background. Being born and raised in the city of Milwaukee, was born in one of the most challenged communities in this entire country, our state's poorest zip code, one of the nation's most incarcerated. But it is that experience that prompted me to run for office in the first place. It's what prompted me to become an organizer, which was my entry point into political office. I served as an organizer for Milwaukee Inner City Congregations Ally for Hope, an interfaith social justice organization that advocated issues around jobs and economic development, education, immigration reform, and treatment instead of prison. And that's the energy that I took into my campaign for state representative in 2012. I was proudly elected as Lieutenant Governor in 2018, which was an amazing experience for so many reasons, but most importantly, because we got to bring a bold, progressive vision to the state of Wisconsin. People always say, can you be bold and progressive in the Midwest and win? I'm here to tell you that's the only way you win, because folks have been left behind. And it's important for us to be able to make the connections between our urban, rural, and suburban communities. Too often, we let the other side define that debate, define that conversation, and divide us up by using this false narrative of an urban-rural divide. I'm here to tell you that I've been to all 72 counties in the state of Wisconsin. That divide is not what they'll make you think it is. It's important that we all have healthcare, that every person in this state, every person in this country can go to a doctor and not worry about having a surprise bill. It's about making sure that all of our children have good schools in every community, every zip code. Quality education has to be our priority. Economic opportunity, and doing the hard work to combat the climate crisis, which is where I've spent most of my time as Lieutenant Governor. And we need a more fair immigration system, as we see in these most recent days. We see some very disturbing and stressful footage, and that just is case in point of why we have to do so much better as a party. But we don't advance ourselves as a party. We don't advance the cause of progressivism by sitting on the sidelines. We advance the cause by showing up, getting out there, taking our ideas directly to the people. And ultimately, I think that's how we'll win. And so I'm proud of the endorsements we've gotten so far, by far more endorsements than any other person in this primary. We are polling ahead of any other candidate in this primary. It is crowded. There are about a dozen people in the race, but the polling shows that I have more support than the rest of the field combined, 29 points ahead of the next person in the general, tied with Ron Johnson. But once people learn the story, once people get the bio, that lead, or that goes to 50-45 in our favor. So the support that you all give today will go directly to making sure that we get my name out there, to make sure we get the story out there, to make sure we get the vision out there. And hopefully, we will be able to do that and as soon as possible, because we don't have time to waste with this race. So just thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Mandela. So folks, we have a ton of questions rolling in. We have a ton of pre-submitted ones, but to kick things off, our co-founder, Dr. Stephanie Taylor, she's the one that conceived of this program, is going to kick things off and ask the first question. So Stephanie, please.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, Mandela. So good to see you again. Thanks for joining us. And my question tonight is about something our members care a lot about, and that I know you care a lot about, which is climate. So my question is, what actions do you think are most important right now for Congress to take on climate, and how will you lead on climate action as a senator?
Yeah, so I'll start from the back, and I'll say I will lead on climate as a senator the same way that I've led on climate as Lieutenant Governor. I was appointed to serve as the chair of the governor's task force on climate change. This was an issue we took very seriously from day one. On election night, the very first words when I took the podium was that we're bringing science back. I'm proud that we've done that. We've brought scientists back into our Department of Natural Resources, the ones that were routinely purged or pushed into early retirements during the Scott Walker administration. And as the chair of the task force, we brought together stakeholders from all across the state to find concrete solutions to put Wisconsin in the driver's seat. We've done big, bold things before. Wisconsin was once a leader in terms of conservation. We were a leader in terms of renewable energy, and we lost our way for 8 long years. And a lot of it has been us playing catch up. But I'm incredibly proud about the task force report that we put out at the end of last year that detailed 55 policy recommendations that span 9 different sectors. And I think that one of the most important things about that is that we led with opportunity. We led with environmental justice. We led with an economic message so that the conversation about climate change will resonate in so many more communities. Talk about my dad's story because my grandfather moved to Milwaukee after serving in World War II, worked in a factory as a union steel worker for over 30 years, retired comfortably. My father followed in those footsteps, and he worked on an assembly line as a UAW member for 30 years, and he assembled catalytic converters. And the fact is, catalytic converters wouldn't have even been necessary if it were not for the EPA and the Clean Air Act requiring reduced emissions for vehicles. And so if my father and so many other people in his generation were able to find living wage and middle class employment, this is their entryway into the middle class. And I think that we're in the same place right now because there's so many parts to a windmill, like 6,000 components or so. Our solar panels, these aren't being built in America. We can build these parts right here in the state of Wisconsin and all across the industrial Midwest. And we can transform the Rust Belt into the Green Belt, which is a huge vision of mine. And I think that the actions that Congress can take are the most important is to, one, get serious about the issue and lead with climate change. I think that it is the overarching issue of my time.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Mandela. So folks, keep the great questions rolling on in. Our next question comes from Colleen. Mandela, what do you think is the best path to universal healthcare? And how would you talk about universal healthcare with independent or Republican voters?
Yeah, so I agree with Senator Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin. Medicare for all is how we achieve universal health care. It's the fastest way for us to get there. And again, Wisconsin has a bold history of doing big things, and we can do that again. And we have a pretty solid Medicaid program here in the state of Wisconsin, Badger Care, that we've worked tirelessly to expand, but unfortunately have faced so much Republican legislative obstruction. This obstruction didn't come from Republicans at large who just live in Wisconsin. I've had conversations with sheriffs when we've discussed issues like addiction and overdose deaths and how the expansion of Medicaid, we're only one of 18 states that has not expanded their Medicaid program under the ACA. But I had a conversation with the sheriff who told me outright, he said, you know what, I've seen you before. This was in 2019. He said, I saw you last fall. I was campaigning against you when I was running for sheriff. And I'll tell you, you're absolutely right about the need for us to expand Badger Care. So the idea that more people should have access to healthcare, the idea that people should be able to go see a doctor and not have to worry about a surprise bill, the idea that our prescription drug costs have to be lower isn't necessarily a partisan conversation. So when you ask about what do we say to independents and Republicans, we talk about the fact that you should be able to go to a doctor, period. And folks understand that. There are Republican obstructionists who don't understand it. And we know that that comes back to the way that our campaigns are being funded. There are a lot of moneyed interests that don't want to see Medicare for all become the reality in this country. There are so many obstructionists who would rather the healthcare and the pharmaceutical industry profit while so many people continue to suffer all across this country. So the one idea out there that gets us to universal health care, or at least the fastest, is Medicare for all. And if there's another plan out there, if there's another idea, more than happy to entertain, more than happy to listen to it.
Thank you. Our next question comes from our friend Morris Pearl. Morris, what's your question?
Hi. As a lot of you know, I work at the group Patriotic Millionaires, and we're trying to promote the idea that charging rich investors like us lower tax rates than people who work for a living contributes to inequality. And I was wondering if you could discuss what you feel about tax policy and how it should be changed to decrease the inequality in our nation. Thank you.
Morris, if I'm not mistaken, we met at a Six event at the at a fundraising reception. Am I right or am I wrong here?
Could have been. I go to a lot of fundraisers here in New York and other places.
This one was in DC at the Omni showroom.
Yes, I was at the Omni showroom the day of the training that the PCCC did.
Well, good to see you. And I'll say that I mean,
thank you.
Taxing the rich is that's a baseline issue. You know, that's something that, you know, we should generally support. I mean, that shouldn't be a big fight for the lack of services that people are getting all across this country, when schools are underfunded, when we're still trying to figure out how to get an infrastructure bill passed. You know, people look at a $3.5 trillion number and say, you know, oh, what is this? Is a lot of money. But the fact is, there are a whole lot of people who aren't paying their fair share. And if they were to do so, we would have more than enough money to be able to fund all of our needs in this country. And so taxing the rich is it's not a good policy idea. It's necessity. It's what we have to do for our society to see any sort of inequality. When you have middle income households that pay less in taxes than the ultra wealthy, when you have a pandemic that has disrupted and upended the lives of middle to lower income households, while at the same time the richest in our society have gotten over $1 trillion increase in wealth, then we have a real problem. In this sort of inequality that exists in Wisconsin that has not been at this point since the Great Depression, it does not end well. And this impacts our schools. Again, it impacts our roads, impacts quality of life for everybody. And greed is going to cost us so much more than dollars and cents. It will cost us in terms of a functioning society if we don't get a grip on it.
Thank you for the thoughtful question, Mandela. Thank you for the thoughtful response. All right, next question is from our friend, Mike Schell. Mike, you wanna go ahead and unmute yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, Mandela, for your efforts out there. I had a whole bunch of questions, but I really would like you to address on the assumption that you become the junior senator from Wisconsin, two issues that I think are really critical in trying to achieve what we want to achieve in terms of representation of the people of the country and policy that right now is being blocked by the Republicans in both the Senate and in the Supreme Court. And I'd like you to address your thoughts on eliminating the filibuster as well as Supreme Court reform.
Yeah, the filibuster is the absolutely the easiest part of that question because, you know, there's an argument that could be made to keep the filibuster, but at this point in time, it's not a strong enough argument. We're being held back from progress, and you know, there's obviously the political argument for ending the filibuster, but there's the reality aspect. There's the conversation, the argument about people's quality of life and the things that we have not been able to achieve as a result of the filibuster being in place, and the thought that we could lose so much progress when theoretically we have a majority. And you mentioned Republican obstructionists, and unfortunately, it's not always Republicans that are playing the role of obstructionists, that are hindering our progress. And so ending the filibuster, I do see that as step one for us to finally be able to get something real done, something concrete. And when I say something real and concrete, I mean something that creates a dynamic shift in the way things are being handled now, a dynamic shift in quality of life, delivering real opportunity for people. And the thought too, where it's not even a real filibuster, it is the threat of a filibuster is enough to end debate and to end a conversation. You know, the will of the people is being ignored. The will of the people is not being respected. The majority of people in this country support many of the ideas, many of the bills that would come to the floor and be up for debate and be up for a vote. if not for the filibuster. In terms of Supreme Court reform, that's a conversation I'm willing to have. I look at the courts as something that Democrats haven't always taken seriously, whether it's the state or the federal level, while at the same time, conservatives have played this background role very quietly, sometimes not so quiet. And what they've done is been able to hijack our courts right now. And when it comes to progress being impeded by the Supreme Court, is there room for some sort of Supreme Court reform? Yeah, and I got a good friend of mine, good buddy of mine, is leading the charge right now when it comes to expanding the court. But I am more than willing to have that conversation. I can't say that I'm firmly there, only because there's the fear that at some point there may be another Republican president who wants to expand the court further, and then where do we find ourselves? But let's have the conversation. I think it's more than worthy of a debate.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mandela. All right, we have a next question back to climate from our friend Stacy Herzing. Stacy, would you like to unmute yourself, please, and ask Mandela your question? Stacy? Okay, I will ask Stacy's question. I very much agree that the U.S. should have more green energy to the extent that that's possible to build those systems here. However, Germany and China are ahead of us on this and have been for 15 plus years. Mandela, what are the various ways you think that the U.S. can catch up?
I'll tell you, they're ahead of us for a reason. That's because the political will is there. There are many other countries who are far ahead of us. I had a chance to attend COP25 in Madrid, the UN climate conference in 2019. And, we asked some of the representatives from different countries, like, well, how are you able to get these vehicle standards as an example? And it's because the government required them to have it. These nations required higher standards to address climate change. They require higher standards for production, for manufacturing. As a nation, we haven't done that. We're beholden to so many interests where it seems like we're so far out of the realm of possibility of having the dynamic change that we need, while other countries have just done it. And it seems like we're afraid as a country to be bold. And these large corporations, they're not going to close their doors. They have to operate somewhere. So if in a unified way, we step up and say, well, it stops here. If you're not using more sustainable practices in your business, if your vehicles aren't achieving a certain standard, then you just can't do business here. And they are going to respond by making the adjustments that are necessary. They're not going to forego the jobs. They're not going to forego the profit. They're not going to just pack up and go somewhere else, because if, as a globe, as a society, we step up and demand better, I think that I think there is no chance, there's no option before the largest companies to respond. And one thing too is, if we as individuals did everything right, recycled every day, we got solar panels on all of our homes, we would still see the largest corporations account for 70% of emissions, 70% contribution to climate change. And so it is all of us who should be stepping up to demand more from polluters, making polluters pay, also requiring new sets of standards, even at the local level when we're able to. And we have to expand the majority to make that happen. I don't think that the current majority in the Senate is going to let that happen. I don't think that, we can count on the current makeup of Congress to take us where we need to go. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm running for office, to continue the work that I've already been a part of in addressing climate change in a holistic way, in a very comprehensive way. And we just need more people who are dedicated and committed to seeing this through.
Thank you. And hi, Stacy.
Hi, can I have a quick follow-up?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that you've said, and it does come down to political will, and it also comes down to political, direct obfuscation in the Senate right now in terms of, why don't we have the Build Back Better that actually has the best climate initiative so far? It is by and large, because the Republicans are getting so much money from the fossil fuel industry that that is their priority. Their personal political career is more important to them than paying attention to the people, or how do we sustain it? What is this going to look like in 60 years? And what is it going to be like for their kids and grandkids? They're not even acting from that spot. And then one other question, and you can answer it or not. I don't hear many people talking about research and development. There was, something within the Obama administration that he did, and then it didn't work out like everyone thought it should. That's research and development. Some things work, some things don't. That's why you try multiple things at the same time to see which one it is. If you knew which one it was, you wouldn't have to do the research. Yeah. So in any case, that is another area that I would just like to see come back.
Stacey, if we could, I'll connect and we'll follow up on this one just because we're running a little bit tight.
Fine.
Thank you. And I'll mention just quickly, so Mandela, we'll follow up on this one, but we met Stacey in Wisconsin where she lived for many years. So the stars aligned. So thank you, Stacey, for being here tonight. I think we're going to squeeze in. Bear with me, folks. Please forgive me if I haven't gotten to your question. I'm going to stick my email in the chat. So send me your question and I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as I can. We have a question from our friend, Carol Winograd. Carol, would you go ahead and like to unmute yourself and ask Mandela your question, please? Carol? Okay, I will ask Carol's question. Mandela, what is...
Here I am.
Hi, hello.
So, what are your thoughts about how to deal with the current crisis in Del Rio, Texas, and the Dreamers and comprehensive immigration reform?
Yeah, so comprehensive immigration reform is one of those issues that I had a chance to organize around. It's one of the things that drew me to elected office. And I am incredibly supportive of comprehensive immigration reform and the pathway to citizenship. And I'm also supportive of us making sure that we uphold our duty, our responsibility to provide asylum to those who are seeking it. And there are a lot of things going on all across the country. I'm like, personally, I've had to move across town before, and it's terrible. And the thought that people are willing to uproot their entire lives, all their entire families, to move thousands of miles across a border, navigating dangerous circumstances, the threat of death, the threat of deportation, the threat of illness, is something that signals the need for us to be able to provide. I mean, there's a reason why the United States of America looks like it does right now, and we have to continue to honor that duty, that responsibility that we have to be open, welcoming, inviting, and providing of opportunity for everyone. And if I could just say quickly too about Stacey's question about research and development, I can tie this to what Morris had to say about inequality, because I mentioned funding our schools, but I'm really proud of our university system. I'm really proud of our tech college system. And they have been at the forefront of innovation, at least here in Wisconsin. I love to brag on Wisconsin whenever I get a chance. This is the case in many other states as well. But this is where innovation happens. This is where we foster great ideas and great minds. Many of those ideas don't come from people who were born here in the United States. And it's important for us to continue to, it's important for us in terms of growth, it's important for us in terms of innovation, to be able to have more comprehensive immigration reform. But also, it doesn't matter if you're a person who's just seeking a better life for you and your family, you should have opportunity here in the United States of America. That's what it comes down to. And so I really appreciate that question. We are just not answering the call in the way that we should be here.
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Carol, so much, Mandela. I am going to sneak in one last question from Janelle. Mandela, are you willing to ask the president to sign on to student loan forgiveness? Yes, I
am. I think that student loan forgiveness is something that will help our economy a great deal. It is nearly impossible for people in my age group to own a home. It's nearly impossible for people in my age group to reach the to come anywhere close to the American dream as was presented. So I think student loan debt is very much out of control right now, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, thank you. Janelle, thank you for the question. Mandela, thank you. All right, folks, I want to be respectful of everyone's time here, and let's go ahead and move to wrap up. Adam, would you like to give your last minute thoughts on why this race is so important? Hi.
Okay. Well, curveball there. You know, I think I made a case before for those who weren't here. I mean, this is just a golden opportunity to invest in a red to blue race, one where we have a clear movement progressive, where that person is the front runner and is the most electable against a Republican. You know, there are some races that are uphill. There are some races where it's a little bit more risky to get in early. I would really just ask anybody, even those who, again, were all in 2020 and are a little bit more sparing of where you invest time and money now, to think of this one as top of the pecking order. This is an easy one if we get our ducks in a row. We do have a couple of millionaires who are more than 29 points behind Mandela, but they want to change that. And we need to make sure that we're investing to let him keep his clear front runner status and make sure that he remains neck and neck with Ron Johnson. So I would just ask people to really consider donating today before the September 30th deadline, and maybe to ask Mandela if he has any final thoughts before we go.
Yeah, this one is, I'm really happy to actually have a battle of ideas, and we actually have a debate in earnest. I think that is ultimately what helps us to grow. And so with that being said, I'm very proud of where we are in terms of the performance, the polling, having been able to do the hard work in 2 short months to have more support than the rest of the field combined, to have well over 100 local elected officials step up to endorse this campaign, to have the only campaign endorsed by any city member of Congress, including Elizabeth Warren, including Congresswoman Gwen Moore, Congresswoman Nikema Williams, Congressman Eric Swalwell, a number of other people as well. And we just need help to continue to build that momentum. And if you have given, just want to say thank you, but also want to say, we need your help to get over the finish line, to get us through this first quarter, to have a strong fundraising number that shows the grassroots support that we have. We are building the coalition that it's going to take to defeat Ron Johnson. We are the only campaign to have done it before, and we are the only campaign that's demonstrated an ability to come anywhere near being able to build the operation that it's going to take. So thank you all for being here, and I would greatly appreciate any support that you're able to offer before our first deadline, September 30th.
And if I could just say one more thing, Rachel, I'm just looking at the back end of the Act Blue link, which is in the chat right here, and I'm seeing contributions ranging from $3 to $300 so far. So I thank people who have been on.
Thank you.
If you could do more, but every $3 counts. So thanks everybody for being here. Rachel?
Thank you, folks. Dig deep if you can. Some folks have already donated. Others are listening to Mandela and donating more. So thank you so much, Mandela. Thank you for taking the time. We are Team Mandela all the way. Adam and Stephanie, but most importantly, thank you to everyone that took the time to be here with us tonight. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you. Stay safe, stay positive. Until the next time, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
You too. Have a good time. Have a good life. Bye-bye.
You too. Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Bye, Boris. Bye, Mike. Bye, Stacy. Bye.